You know, we all think that slavery ended after the Civil War with the 13th Amendment. Not true. We just put walls around it. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. 13th Amendment. We've been talking about the 12th Amendment and how that might lead to, an absolute screaming, flaming disaster this fall and winter. And I mean, it could get really, really ugly. But the 13th Amendment was the amendment that ended slavery in the United States. And everybody talks about it like, hey, it ended slavery. Isn't that cool? Well, it didn't end slavery. The 13th Amendment did not end slavery. It narrowed it. It said that you may only have slaves in the United States, enslaved persons, if it is done under the color of law. If a person is convicted of a crime, then the state may choose to sell them into slavery. You don't believe me? Look up the 13th Amendment. It's right there. So as a result of this, for 100 and some odd years, I think the 13th Amendment was ratified in the mid to late 1870s. And as a result of this, what we have is prison labor. And you've got a whole bunch of for-profit corporations who've jumped in on this. Hey, it's like these are the modern-day plantation owners. They are running slavery enterprises. Now, this does not happen in any other civilized country in the world, any other developed country in the world. But it does happen here. And it's one of the reasons that while we are 4% of the world's population, we have 20% of the world's prisoners. Probably 3/4 of those prisoners are there because, hey, it's slave labor. Let's make the most of this. I find it interesting that we have 20% of the world's deaths from COVID, too. I was looking at those numbers yesterday, and somebody was like, yeah, we're 4% of the world's population, 4.5% of the world's population. We have 20% of the world's COVID deaths. And I thought, well, that's interesting. We also have 20% of the world's prisoners. And so, here we are. But anyhow, the University of Florida, day before yesterday, announced that they will no longer use slave labor in 2020. The University of Florida has relied on prison and jail inmates to provide farm labor. This is from a press release, actually. It's a statement by President Ken Fuchs of the University of Florida. The title of his statement was "Another Step Toward Positive Change Against Racism." He's noting that most of the people who are imprisoned and then sent out for slave labor are people of color, African Americans and Hispanics principally. He said there are agricultural operations where the University of Florida has relied on prison and jail inmates to provide farm labor. The symbolism of inmate labor is incompatible with our university and its principles, and therefore this practice will end. Now, in Florida, it's literally slave labor. I mean, the people doing the work don't get anything. In California, they might get a little bit, $1 an hour, 50 cents an hour. In many states, it's basically, just pennies on the dollar. So it's slave labor, but they have this little thin veneer, this kind of stain, this very thin layer over the top saying, oh, no, this is capitalism. We're paying them. Right. One of the companies in this space, one of the corporations in this space, in one of their promotions for, buy our stock, described the detained immigrants. This is one of the companies that has built because they are detained under color of law as well. So they are subject to slavery or enslavement in the United States. They described the people in their prison paid for by you and me to the tune of as much as $700 per day as, quote, a readily available captive labor force. And we got corporations using prison labor all over the country, not just state governments, not just state universities. It's just mind-boggling.